Hello students, this is the part 2 of the chapter Carbon, an important element. Now in the part 1, we had learned about carbon and the different allotropes of carbon. We learned about the crystalline form. Now in this part, we will be learning about the non-crystalline form. Now in the non-crystalline form, the arrangement of carbon atom is not regular. As we saw in crystalline, the arrangement was regular. One was attached to 4 or one carbon atom was attached to 3. But here it is not regular. One can be attached to 6 or it can be attached to as many number of atoms as it wants. So that is why the arrangement is not fixed, and that is why they are called as non-crystalline substances or non-crystalline form of carbon. We even call it as amorphous form of carbon. So the first non-crystalline form of carbon is coal. Now you must have seen coal. It is black in color, and coal is also a fossil fuel. Now why it is a fossil fuel? Because it is obtained by mining, and that is why it is a fossil fuel. And it is formed in the nature only. We do not make coal, but coal is automatically formed. We just have to extract the coal. It occurs in solid state and it contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. It also contains nitrogen, phosphorus and sulfur. Now, there are four types of coal which are present. Next, that is the first form of coal is peat. Now, peat is formed first. This is the first step when coal has to be formed. So, first peat is formed and then afterwards coal is formed. So, it contains high proportion of water and usually less than 60% of carbon. Now, coal has a lot of carbon which is present, but here in peat we only have 60% of carbon, and therefore not much heat can be obtained from the peat because it is having less amount of carbon in it. But you have to remember this, that whenever coal has to be formed, so before that the first step in the formation of coal, so the first step that is formed is the peat. So now second thing that is formed is lignite. So first peat is formed and then second is lignite is formed. This is the second step. Now peat is transformed into lignite. So जो peat बना रहेगा वो transform हो जाता है lignite में. Now why it gets transformed is because of the increased pressure and because of the temperature which is there inside the earth. So as the temperature and pressure increases, so peat gets converted into lignite, and it contains around 70% of carbon in it. Now first peat is formed, then lignite is formed. After formation of lignite, bituminous coal is formed. Now this is around 70 to 90% of coal. So almost the coal has formed, and this is the third step in the formation of coal. So पहले बनता है peat, then we get lignite, and the third step in the formation of coal is the bituminous coal. Now the fourth step, that is when coal is formed, the purest form of coal, उसको हम लोग बोलते हैं anthracite. So peat, then lignite is formed, then bituminous coal is formed, and the fourth step in which the coal is formed, that is called as the anthracite. And anthracite is the purest form, and this contains around 95% of carbon in it. You need to remember the percentage, in which step how many percentage of carbon was there. Let us now talk about the uses of coal. Can you remember any use of coal? So we use coal in our homes also to cook something. So we use coal. Even it is used for roasting stuffs, and usually in the barbecue, if we have to make barbecue, so we use coal. Now coal is also used as a fuel in factories and home. It is also used as coal gas and to obtain coal tar, and it is used in the thermal power plants for the generation of electricity. So with the help of coal, heat is generated, and because of the heat, then electricity is generated. So these are the few uses of coal. Now, the second non-crystalline form of carbon or the amorphous form of carbon is called as charcoal. Now, charcoal can be obtained from two methods, that is from the animals also and from the plants also. So, if we have to obtain charcoal from animals, so when you burn animal bones or the horns, so we get animal form of charcoal. And if we have to make charcoal from plants, so it is formed by the combustion of wood. But the combustion of wood is taken place with the insufficient supply of air. There should be not much air present around. So then charcoal can be obtained from the wood or the plants. Now there is something which is also called as coke. Now this is the third non-crystalline or the amorphous form of carbon. So when you remove the coal gas from the pure coal, okay, now in the pure coal gas is also present. So when we remove that coal gas from the pure coal, so the substance which is left behind, that is called as the coke. And you can even see here the difference between coal and coke. Now, carbon is the one form of organic compound, and the second form of organic compound is hydrogen. And when you combine carbon and hydrogen, so this is called as a basic organic compound, and these are called as hydrocarbons. So hydrocarbons means what? It is having hydrogen also and it is having carbon also in it. Now the electronic configuration of carbon is 2,4. Why it is 2,4? Because there are 6 electrons in the carbon atom. So if we have to write the electronic configurations, we will write 2,4. Now 4, is it complete shell? No. How many electrons it wants for it to get complete? It wants more 4 electrons. So that means what? For the carbon to get complete, it needs 4 electrons more so that it can become 2,8. अब ये कैसे होगा? So this can be done when there can be 4 hydrogen atoms that can combine with the carbon atom. So here if we will see, if with one carbon, okay, now iska electronic configuration is 2,4. Okay, now what is happening is now 4 electrons, that is now 1, 2, 3 and 4 electrons of hydrogen comes and gets combined to the carbon atom. अब कितना हो जाएगा उसका electronic configuration? It will be what? 2,8. Why it is 2,8? Because hydrogen has only one electron. Okay, so earlier it was 2,4. Okay, this was for what? This was for carbon. Now there are 4 hydrogen electrons. Okay, so we have 4 hydrogen electrons which gets attached to the carbon. So now what will be the electronic configuration that will be formed? It will be 2,8. Now as it is 2,8, so that means what? This last shell is complete and this becomes what? A complete shell and a complete octet is formed here. So that means what? After adding 4 electrons, the carbon which was incomplete gets completed. So that means now we have what? CH4, and CH4 is called as methane. So this is how a methane is formed when carbon gets attached to 4 hydrogen atoms. And these bonds in which they get attached, these are called as the covalent bonds. Now we are talking about the covalent bonds. So what can be the properties of covalent compounds? As there are covalent bonds which are formed, so that is why the compound which is formed, it becomes what? A covalent compound. Okay. So now what can be the properties of covalent bond? So they have low melting and boiling points. This is the first property. Then they are insoluble in water, but they can be soluble in organic solvents, and they are poor conductor of heat and electricity. So now we know what are hydrocarbons. That means they have hydrogen and carbons which are attached by a covalent bond. Now there are two types of hydrocarbon. One is saturated hydrocarbon and the other is unsaturated hydrocarbon. So here if you will see the example of saturated hydrocarbon, you will see that there is only single bond here. Okay, between two carbon atom, you can find single bond. But here, if you will see in the unsaturated carbon atom, you will see that there is double bond and triple bond. So from this, what can you conclude? So from the previous example, we can say that saturated hydrocarbons have single bonds between the carbon atom, and unsaturated hydrocarbons have more than one bond between the carbon atoms, or you can say they have multiple bonds between the carbon atoms. So the example of saturated hydrocarbon can be ethane, that is C2H6, or propane, which is nothing but C3H8. So all these have single bonds. Then we have unsaturated hydrocarbons. So the example of unsaturated hydrocarbons can be ethene, that is CH2 double bond CH2. Then we have propene, then we have propene. These are the unsaturated hydrocarbons. Next is the solubility of carbon. We have to check that whether carbon is soluble or not. So we are taking here three substances, like we are taking water, we are taking kerosene, and we are taking cooking oil. All these three liquid are there, and we will dissolve carbon in it, and we will see whether it is soluble or it is insoluble. So when you take solvents like water and you try to dissolve coal in water, so it is not soluble, so that means it is not soluble in water. Then when you take carbon, that is the coal, and you dissolve it in kerosene, it is not soluble in kerosene also. And the coal is not soluble in the cooking oil as well. So from this you can infer that carbon is insoluble in water, kerosene, and cooking oil. And so we can say that carbon is insoluble. Now in the next experiment, we will see what is the reaction of carbon with oxygen. So for this, we need coal, we need a matchbox, and we need a moist litmus paper. Okay, so first we have to ignite the coal, and then we have to hold the moist litmus paper from the gas which is released from the coal. So what you will see is that the gas which is released from the coal, so coal react with oxygen gas in the presence of the air. Okay, so it reacts with the oxygen, and the substance which is formed is nothing but carbon dioxide. And as you keep the litmus paper there, so you will see that the moist litmus paper, it was, as we are taking blue litmus paper, because of carbon dioxide, the blue litmus paper turns to red. So from this, what can you conclude that which chemical reaction has taken place here? So first there was carbon. Okay. So here if you will see in this reaction, we can see that here is carbon and here we have oxygen. So when carbon and oxygen it combines, we get what? We get carbon dioxide. So at the end what is formed? Carbon dioxide is formed. But now how this paper turns red? So what happens is, as carbon dioxide is formed, now this carbon dioxide, when it combines with this moist paper, now as it is moist, it is having water in it. So when it combines with moist paper, so that means it is having what? Hydrogen and oxygen also in it. So what is formed is carbonic acid is formed. So because of the carbonic acid, this blue litmus paper, what it does, it turns red because of the acid which is formed as carbon dioxide, and here we have water also. So when carbon dioxide combines with water, so acid is formed, that is called as carbonic acid. So we can conclude this from the experiment that this moist litmus paper turned red because of the carbon dioxide which is released. In turn, when it combines with the water, it forms carbonic acid. Now in the next experiment, we have to see that what happens when you combine carbon dioxide with lime water. So for this, we are taking a test tube, we are taking a straw, and we are taking lime water. So we have to take freshly prepared lime water and you need to blow in that lime water. So when you blow, what is released into it is carbon dioxide is released. So when the lime water, now lime water contains what? Lime, that is CaO. Now this lime water is not the lemon water. Okay, lime is different, that is CaO. Now when CaO combines with water, then we get lime water, that is CaOH2. Now, when this lime water combines with carbon dioxide, so first of all, the water is separated and we get a precipitate that is called as calcium carbonate, which is nothing but white in color. So when it combines with the carbon dioxide, that means calcium carbonate is formed.